Hi everyone, it's Simon here, and it is Friday the 30th of December. I just wanted to firm up on a few ideas that I was talking about yesterday regarding the January forecast. We're getting some sort of backup for the forecast coming through from the models. Now that's not to say that things can't change, because they can. But it's just interesting that the models are starting to see what we've been seeing now for a week or so. And it's just interesting to look through a few things and just to see where this story is kind of fitting together. The building blocks are starting to gradually fit in place. Start off first of all with the NAO. This is the North Atlantic Oscillation Forecast. And notice how again from the midnight run of the GFS it's heading its way gradually into neutral territory by the time we get through to the middle of the month. This is 13th, 14th of January. Notice too that the various runs of the ensemble are all within quite a narrow area, which is building up confidence in the model itself, and the confidence in the model. This slow slippage to neutral levels indicating that the westerly flow across the Atlantic is starting to weaken by the time we get through to the middle of the month. And next up is the Arctic Oscillation. So this is the measure of the strength of the westerly winds around the Arctic Circle, and positive means they're strongly westerly, negative means that they've actually gone to an easterly. And you can see how they're starting to fall off here early in the month. They become neutral around the 7th, and then they're kind of just falling off into negative territory by the time we get through to mid-month. Now, more of a spread in these through the ensemble member runs, as you can see, but the mean of them brings us into this negative territory. Now, this idea of falling more into a neutral state earlier on is this thought about cold air starting to build at the pole and perhaps slip its way a little bit southwards, and it's that may head towards us in the second half of the month. Also got some backup from the operational GFS model this morning. This is from weatheronline.co.uk, and this is the chart for midnight on the 15th of January. And see the high pressure here out to the west of the UK, low pressure out to the east, and this north to northwesterly flow resulting in between. Now, this isn't to say this is exactly the way this is going to be. I've been talking about this on the written musing, which if you click on and go and have a read, you'll see what I mean. But it's starting to hint that this is the way the pattern may well progress. This idea that we go into more of a north to northwesterly flow as we go through the period of the middle part of January. And this is the 500 millibar flow from the same time. And notice how we've got this ridge in the pressure in the heights that builds out towards the west of the country, and starting to see this developing trough across Eastern Europe. Now, what I think could result from this pattern, and I'm in some disagreement here with Captain Bob, because he's thinking about high pressure building towards the north or the west of the country, or at least that's what I understand. No doubt he'll post about that later. But what I think might happen is that this area here gets cut off as a cold pool again into the Eastern Med, which is what they've actually had through the Christmas period. I think then what's going to happen is this ridge blocks out in the Atlantic here towards the west of the UK, but it allows the jet to come in from a colder direction, to come in from northern Canada, across Greenland, and down through the British Isles, perhaps from a northwesterly direction. So what that brings is cooler conditions to all of us, but not necessarily settled. So we'll still see outbreaks of rain, turning to sleet, turning to snow as well potentially, particularly across Scotland, Northern England, Northern Ireland, perhaps even down to low levels across England and Wales too. Although I stress this is not a winter of 2010, 2011. It's not that sort of depth of cold. It is a winter outbreak, but not at that level. Now, something else that's interesting me at the moment, and it's something that Captain Bob has posted about too, and expect to see more of this over the next few days, is this cold pool here in the Atlantic, the effect that that's happening. I did post earlier on in December about this, and I was kind of wondering if this is what's been breaking up the shortwave troughs as they've been heading eastwards, which has meant that they haven't really got their act together, which has meant that eastern and southern parts of the country, by the time fronts have got through to there, have been generally drier. So it's going to be interesting to watch that as well over the coming period to see what happens, because if you notice we've got warmer water up towards the north of the country. Now, if we get colder air at upper levels flowing over warmer water at the surface, that destabilises the atmosphere. It generates cloud, it generates rain, it generates convection, and it's this warm water as the jet stream has flowed over here, bringing that cooler air at upper levels, that have been generating the rain and showers and deep areas of low pressure that we've seen, and further ones too that have tracked across the more southern parts of the Atlantic also have picked up on moisture there. So this is going to be an interesting feature to watch, just to see what happens to that warm water out towards the west of the country. And a quick reminder, this is what I posted up yesterday. These are where I see the forecast mean temperatures going, and I've got normal to -1 across Scotland, across Scandinavia, Iceland in the first part of the month, but above normal across the southern half of the country and through much of southern parts of Europe. As for the second half of the month, this is where I think it goes. Look, quite far below normal conditions, northern Scotland, Iceland, Scandinavia, Greenland, nearer normal to just below normal across Ireland, England and Wales, and then above normal conditions for more southern parts of Europe. And what I've been trying to hint at here is this idea of the jet slowly being pushed southwards and staying in more of a westerly flow across much of the country. I'm working on some precipitation forecasts at the moment for you, and hope to have those with you very soon. But the idea I've got is that you'll notice, because these lines are lined west to east, that means that I think the flow is generally going to be westerly, but I think this whole area gets pushed southwards, hence the reason for this cooler second half of the month. Prior to that, I should say, it looks like unsettled conditions. The jet stream staying with us up till at least the 12th or 13th. It's going to blow areas of low pressure through, periods of rain at times, periods of strong winds, and occasionally that will turn to snow across the Scottish mountains. So really for the next sort of 10-12 days, it's pretty much what you see is what you get, whereas beyond that I think things do tend to change. Now, thanks for watching. As always, this site is kept free of charge by the adverts you see around. So if you do see an advert you like, click on it, go through to the advertiser. It generates revenue for us, and it shows the advertiser that you're interested in the site that I'm running here. And thanks again for watching, and keep the sun shining.